This is the topic of the time. This is a very interesting topic. I think it's all on our minds as the world is going through its own changes. We have heard about the deglobalization, the term deglobalization until a few years back. No one had heard, that term for many decades. And we are seeing great churns in trade investment flows happening across the world. Few things are clear. Over the last decade, or I would say for the last 2 decades, Asia has been the prime destination when it comes to trade and investment. But Asia itself is going through a reconfiguration. We have heard a lot about, investments that used to go to China, now coming to other destinations, including India and few other Southeast Asian countries. We have heard about trade flows changing in many ways. So there is a reconfiguration happening within Asia. But I also want to add that South Asia has a huge potential as a region, both from economic growth perspective, both from as well as from the population that South Asia has as a proportion of the world. I think it's a significant journey ahead for the entire South Asia. So the topic that we will discuss today, while we talk about Asia as a whole, there'll be a bit of a focus on South Asia and Middle East region that we want to talk about. So let me start by, with my panel that is, I would say, probably fairly diverse experiences, diverse roles. And we will cover many, many facets of the regional cooperation, trade and investments. But let me start with Ramy. If you could just share your view, since we are talking about a lot of trade agreements were happening, did not happen. There were countries that were going in, not going in. Many trade agreement discussions have happened globally, as well as cross-border connectivity. Where do you see the key opportunities and challenges when it comes to, these trade agreements, cross-border connectivity and cross-border investments?
Thank you very much for the question, Hemant. I think, obviously, firstly, I would like to thank everybody for being here and thank you for inviting me. Asia is very resilient, obviously looking outward, not only into Asia, but globally. So the world's getting a lot smaller. It's very important for cross-border trading where the governments are involved in creating the right ecosystems or to have the right legislation, as well as capitalizing on all the free trade agreements that are out there. So I think where I stand, I see that Asia now, India, for example, and the UAE have a CEPA agreement for trading more than 4,000 products going back and forth, no custom duties and open to trade. But then again, it's a bouncing platform of being in the right place at the right time, the right location, so that you can extend that outreach by other trade agreements that allow you to connect with the West, allow you to connect into Africa. The UAE has, for example, 31 trade agreements with 31 global countries right now, and it allows cross-border trading. So that's really a true testament to how just Indian entrepreneurs, whether they're SMEs or whether they're manufacturers, are looking into establishing and growing and expanding their businesses into the UAE or elsewhere using that network of free trade agreements. I think the industries as well, as many of it is e-commerce based now, so that's another thing that people are accustomed to at the moment. So you need to have different locations to service your market, to service your customers, your clients faster, quicker, much more efficient ways to get the products across. So I think expansion and having not all of your eggs in one basket is also a trend that we're seeing all over. So I think, I hope that is food for thought for just the way the trade is booming after COVID, and the way it's changed from the very traditional methods to more advanced in terms of e-commerce and getting to the consumer. Because as a consumer and as you are consumers, we're much more picky and much more demanding, and we need it now, we need it tomorrow or yesterday. So you need to get your products across, and trade is vital to the economy.
So Ramy, I think some very interesting thoughts over there, and I particularly notice, 31 countries UAE has an agreement with, today. That's a fairly large number. It's been fairly quite proactive. It's interesting the overall the flow of trade and investment, the trends we have seen. And Lakshmi, I want to come to you. On the FII, FDI, what you see the future trajectory, where do you see, what we were seeing, let's say, a decade back, where do you see the next decade when it comes to those flows?
So they say the future is always bright. But I would say that from an India standpoint, the past was equally illustrious. So is the present. So India might be ranking maybe 100 plus, I think 136th in the happiness quotient in terms of being the happiest nation. But if you look at the pecking order of FDI, and I'll start with FDI first, because that is a more durable form of capital infusion into the country, which goes directly into the productive sectors, including services. I think that's where we are in top 10. So I think that's clearly a very good start point. The highest FDI flow that we had as a nation was close to a little under $85 billion. We've seen a little bit tepidness in that flow in the last couple of quarters. But the fact of the matter is that I won't say it's a TINA factor. TINA factor is basically there is no alternative. But clearly among the Asian behemoths and the fact that China has been fumbling on various counts. I've been reading a lot, interestingly, though the investment focus is on India. But every time you're talking to, as a money manager, when you're talking to investors, the question is what next in Asia? What is the next destination? And in that context, you see whether it is on the job front, whether it is on the property front, whether it's on the financial services, on all of these counts, China is clearly, playing second fiddle to India. And I think that is where India's pole position in terms of being able to attract incremental flows, both on foreign direct investment and on foreign portfolio investment seems to be intact. On that note, if I move to FPI flows, which is the money which actually flows into the financial sector, which is largely equities or fixed income as an asset class, again, I think in the last 10, 11 years where active flows have been coming to India, last year was the highest ever flows in the last 11 years that we got combined into both the asset classes, which is equities and fixed income. And again, in the last 10, 11 years, there were only 3 instances where the net flows were negative. So I think all of these data is clearly pointing out towards the fact, I started off by saying that future is bright, but I think it's from an Asia perspective, it is time to say, tiger to zinda hai, but this is the time to say tiger returns.
No, it's, I think some of the numbers you mentioned, and I saw a headline a few days back when NSE overtook Hong Kong index briefly to become the 5th largest, stock market in the world. So it's interesting to see these times, and definitely, I also read somewhere that in the last few years, I think equity market has seen investments of the size that we had seen in the 14 or 15 years prior to that. So,
in fact, if you look at the last 15 and 20-year data on a dollar return basis, India has outperformed the US as well. And that is the power of growth potential in a country like India. And why I said dollar return is because all of these investors who pump in money into the country actually earn their returns in dollars. So adjusted for the currency depreciation, this is the kind of return, or this is the kind of wealth creation Indian asset classes have made even for the foreign investors, let alone Indian investors.
Lakshmi, let me ask you, have you seen any shifts in either the target composition of the FPI and FDI flows and the sourcing as well, where it's coming from as well as where it's going?
So I think the nature of the flows is predominantly, at least the orientation is that it is for the longer term. There are two types of money, the tactical money, which we call, from the hedge funds, the long short funds, and the slightly more durable money, as we call the long only investors. Incrementally, and I've just come back from my roadshows in the US, incrementally the durable money, I think that is what is kind of chasing momentum at this point in time, because they are looking for options. There is still reasonable liquidity in the system outside of India as well as in India that is looking to park itself into durable jurisdictions or across the globe, if I were to say. And if you look at it from all perspectives, within emerging market, look at India's component or India's percentage of composition in the MSCI, which was less than 5%. Now it is at 16%. That's clearly showing you that it is the durable money which is actually coming into India. And with the recent inclusion of Indian bonds in the emerging market index, which is the JP index, and now recently the Bloomberg Asia index, you will see this durable money coming into Indian fixed income also. That is the place we were lacking a little bit, but I think we've just ticked that box as well.
Very interesting to hear, and we've been talking about the bond market, the fixed income market, also being built similar to equity market, so great to hear that. Let me change track a little bit here, and Kosala, just moving to you on tourism, which is a very interesting topic, and we keep talking about Asian tourism. I want to specifically focus on South Asia as a region, and we have some wonderful places, including your home country, Sri Lanka. We have Maldives, we have the Andamans, but we don't see the kind of the integrated tourism within South Asia, or while we see those being destinations for the globe. Where do you see, what are the challenges, what can be done to make South Asia a big hub for tourism, and also promote more intra-country tourism within South Asia?
Thank you. I think the Sri Lanka is in the right place, and I think we are next to the fastest growing economy, that is India. So I think we can do a lot with India. I think Sri Lanka getting about maybe 200,000 tourists coming from India every month. So that is maybe third or fourth largest country sending tourists. And Sri Lanka also a big destination for India. We are, I think, maybe the top 5, because we have a lot of Buddhists who are coming to visit the religious places, the Hindus who are coming to all the temples, and the Christians also. So I think that's and we have almost 2,500 years old relationship with India. I think or maybe more when you talk about Sita and all those stories, So I think we are in the right place at the right time, and a lot of opportunity in Sri Lanka. I think when you look at other options, I think we have a very small country, green country, and I think and a lot of investment opportunity for Indian investors. I think there are a lot of encouragement for foreign investment. There are a lot of hotels already done in Sri Lanka, I think by Indian groups. So I think the main purpose of promoting tourism is that's number 2 for us. Coming into for foreign exchange earning. And I think India has a big demand. I think India has about 350 million middle class. So I think maybe it's a good opportunity for spend our their time in Sri Lanka. And I think other opportunities when you're looking at Sri Lanka, the Sri Lanka airline has very good aviation agreement done in the 50s. We can fly to any of the cities in India. I think I don't think any airline has that kind of opportunity. We have about 50 flights coming to India every week. So that's Sri Lanka government is trying to give away the Sri Lanka Airlines ownership. So I think maybe it's a good opportunity for right investor to come and take over. Thank you.
So, Kosala, just following up on that, and for the audience, and we were chatting about this before our, panel discussion, would be great for audience to understand, I think around a year back, there were some challenges in terms of some Sri Lanka going through some tough period. How is the country doing now? What is the investment climate? Where do you see, the shift happening? We heard the buzzword around privatization and few other things. So it would be great for the audience to be aware.
I think what happened in last, like in 2022 is big mismanagement, and I think with the COVID and not too many tourists coming into the country, we had a lot of issues. So I think with the help of India, I think we have managed it, and we are at the right track. And I think last quarter we got 3% growth. So I think we are looking at the very positive. I think tourism is doing very well. I think that's becoming number one, number two investment, earnings for Sri Lanka. So I think we had a very negative situation, but I think it was not that bad, maybe sometimes the bad news have the more in the papers, but the positive news is never in the papers, So I think we are recovering, and I think a lot of investment is coming in. I think a lot of the Sheraton has opened up with the Indian investor, ITC. Taj is already there. So there are opportunities, and I think it's a good place to invest. I think very safe, and it's a beautiful place.
So I think, great to hear that, and some of the conversation we were having about it has made a very quick positive shift that is very visible on the ground, and that's what,
we are doing the right thing. The IMF money came in, and our taxes were increased, so those are the reason for a quick comeback.
Yeah. Great to hear, and thanks for sharing. Sudhakar, just moving to you around a different topic completely, which is again, I think we hear a lot about it in terms of food security, particularly after the Ukraine war and some of the challenges were there. I think we hear more about it, and with the climate change, what are the key challenges you see when it comes to food security, and what are the solutions that are being offered?
Thank you. So food security, the background is that I am from agriculture, trade, and food. That's my domain. And the benefit of speaking last is that I can steal good ideas from my fellow panelists. So I'm very happy to hear Lakshmi say that India is one of the happiest countries, and that happiness is coming from the food which we eat. Sometimes it's too good to be true. Why that food is too good to be true? Maybe after this panel discussion, we have a food security panel, so we'll discuss more in that. So what we realize between Asia and the Middle East, the food security dialogue, is Middle East, where I come from, Ramy is from there, we are from the same country, UAE, neighbors. Neighboring Emirates, I'm from Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, he's from Ras Al Khaimah. Lovely place. So I'm doing a little bit of marketing also. Please come and visit us. And we will come, all of us will come and visit India and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a lovely place. I've been there many times. So there are 18 to 19 nations in the Middle East with a combined population of little shy of 500 million people, about 500 million. But unfortunately, 50 to 90% of the food is imported. And this is where the synergy comes from India. India is the second largest producer of the food in the world, which is an amazing fact considering that we need to feed 1.4 billion people ourselves. And in 1950s, 60s, we have seen those tough times when we were dependent on the donation of the wheat from US to a stage where we can grow enough food for ourselves of 1.4 billion people and still have $50 billion worth of exports of food. And India's food exports to the Middle East is about, all food combined is about, the total trade is about $60 billion. So there is a good synergy of supplying or participating in India-Middle East food security corridor of 19 countries, which is dependent 50 to 90% on the outside food. And surplus food, especially the value-added food from the India, can fulfill that need. So there is a tremendous synergy between India and Middle East food security corridor.
I think that's a very interesting perspective. And sometimes, you know, shifts like these that happen over decades, they get, overlooked. The transition India made through Green Revolution and what we have been able to achieve, it's remarkable. And the synergies that we have with Middle East, which Sudhakar talked about, it's another point of synergy, you know, that we have with Middle East. I want to come back to you, Ramy. We were talking about, you know, Rakesh, your platform, and I wanted to understand a bit for the audience in terms of how it is assisting, you know, some of the companies that want to go global. What exact role can it play? Like, what are the, you know, some of the things it can help with? If you could be a bit specific and share with the audience.
Yeah, so obviously India is our largest trading partner, and also in Rakesh, we've got more than 5,300 Indian companies operating out of our economic zone. Very similar to what you call here the SEZs. So we're all about plug and play. We're all about looking at the scale of each company, whether you're a startup, whether you're an SME, whether you're a trader, or even a large manufacturers. From the Ashok Leylands, Mahindras, Motherson Sumi to Dabur, all of these big corporations, Indian corporations that are manufacturing, to datamatics and IT and AI and SMEs in the IT or ICT and media and even new startups that are monetizing their software applications in the gaming industry or in even the artificial intelligence or digital assets. So what we do as a government agency in an SEZ or a free zone is we open doors, do the matchmaking, set up the companies, give them their legal umbrellas, open bank accounts for them, give them work permits, give them nice co-working or WeWork type business centers or offices or warehouses or industrial land to operate from them. But it's not only about the bricks and mortar or that plug and play one-stop shop. We are also supporting them with incentivizing them. You know, some companies from India are on a shoestring budget. They want to go global. Some of them have financing. Some of them have equity or investors who are pumping in the money from India and all over the world. But definitely what we do is we customize to suit each other's company, to set them up, and they operate out of our zones, whether they're there physically or even virtually. You've got a license, you've got a visa, we give them the visas, the work permits, and then it's all about the matchmaking and opening doors for them and the business opportunities. We have teams that actually looks at their business, we have the ecosystem, the marketplace, and we create that environment so that you just don't come and just are on your own. We're helping them connect with vendors, suppliers, business opportunities, the matchmaking, and creating a marketplace locally in the UAE, GCC-wise, and internationally. So internationally, when I say that, it's again going back to the free trade agreements. It's again going back to logistics. It's again second to none logistics in the UAE, as you know, with all the ports. So we facilitate that and help the SMEs all the way to the manufacturers grow. And again, we're seeing a lot with the new CEPA agreement between India and the UAE, where even though that there's an open free trade happening between the two countries and many items can go back and forth without any custom duties, also we see Indian promoters wanting to diversify, wanting to manufacture and not in one location, and we help them to do that and give them that localization to manufacture under the UAE, make in the UAE initiatives that is open to no quotas from other parts in the world, and help them to promote those products and to ship and export those products, as well as opening the supply chain from other countries. So all of that happens all in a one-stop shop environment.
Sounds like a great platform, and you said 300 Indian companies are already
5,300.
5,300.
We have a total of more than 22,000 companies in our own economic zone. 5,300 of them are from India, Indian promoters, Indian shareholders, and Indian companies, you name it, all the way from, paneer, cheese, to carbon fiber, to defense and automotive and chemical companies and FMCG.
That's a wonderful platform. I think it's great to know, and we have opportunities like that. I just want to, we have 8 minutes left. I want to spend, we can have from the three of you, if you can quickly have 1 minute comment on what is the future of trade and investment cooperation within South Asia. If I can just have a very quick comment from all of you.
So I'll go first and I'll be very brief. There is a tremendous amount of intra-regional trade all over the world, be it ASEAN, EU, Mercosur. But when it comes to South Asia specifically, it is very sad, it's just 5%. The entire South Asia intra-trade is 5%, and the international benchmark is 25%. So we have 5 times potential. With that thought, I'll leave.
Lakshmi?
No, I think I completely echo this sentiment. We are just at the tip of the iceberg, and in that sense, India seems to be an oasis in the desert. There may be many sandstorms, but the oasis is standing pretty static. And I think that pole position where we are in, with relatively, okay on the geopolitics, we have reasonably good neighbors, and I mean literally good neighbors. Some of them could be the mischief mongers, but by and large, we are okay. Politically, we are stable, and from, a currency stability, we are okay. Our trade deficit is on the mend. It is on the lower side. The government's thrust to ensure that Make in India in various forms, the PLI schemes, all that manifest will have its own share of manufacturing. From toys, which we were importing, we're now net exporters of toys. So I think we are seeing the walk the talk happening. Rome was not built in a day, but yeah, I think I would say in typical Bollywood terms that ye to picture abhi baki hai.
Kaushik?
I think Sri Lanka just opened visa-free travel for India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and I hope that India also can open up for Sri Lanka so that our travelers can come. I think very funny thing, both countries have opened tourism offices in Europe, in Far East, but never opened in each other's countries. I think it's a time to open tourism promotion office in Colombo and in Delhi and Bombay and all, because I think we have a lot of tourists coming from these two countries to each other. So I think those are the things. I think we always welcome tourists coming and investment. We are a very open country. I think one of the earliest country to open up in Southeast Asia for trade, for everything, So I think being a small, I think we have a lot of advantages, and I think we would like to ask our friends to visit Sri Lanka as a tourist, as an investor, and as a friend. Thank you.
So I've been to Sri Lanka, and one fun fact I will share is Sri Lanka and New Zealand are only two countries I've been to where in a small area you get to see the mountains, the forests, the beaches, pretty much all different, and all very clean, absolutely. You don't find any other country where literally within like couple of hours of travel, you get to see everything. So with that, I think, we have 4 minutes remaining. I'll just take some audience questions. Well, if we have none, I'll give back the 4 minutes to our presenters. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we have a question?
Hi. Actually, my question is to you, Khaimah. From the work that you are doing, what are the trends actually you are seeing for a country like ours? right? Especially going into the domain of the questions that were being discussed here, and also the larger question that we're talking about, the whole sustainability aspect of it. So from your experience, where do you see it going?
Okay, so I don't think I'm the expert to speak on sustainability as much. I'm more a financial services and digital domain person. I can tell you what I have seen. I returned to India, around almost like it's been little more than 7 years. I stayed in US for more than a decade, and I'm one of the few who decided to come back to India for all the opportunities and all the personal family stuff. Since I've come back, I can tell you it's a different vibrancy. But let me state some few things. We have one of the best digital payment infrastructure. We have one of the best digital ID, infrastructure. What we have built in terms of example, UPI is taken as an example everywhere, by the way. What that helps do is it has facilitated, we have leapfrogged technologies. So like we leapfrogged landlines. We did not extend landlines to a large segment of our population, and we straight away moved to cell phone connections. Same way in payments, we have leapfrogged the whole credit card, debit card regime, and we have probably one of the lowest penetrations of credit card, debit cards, and we have moved straight to UPI, which is phenomenal. Today you see all sabjiwalas in India, grocery stores, everyone using those UPI scans. I have forgotten last time when I was carrying cash. So that's one achievement. And there are many coming along those. I don't know if any of you know about account aggregators, any of you know about Open Credit Enablement Network, or ONDC. These are unique things we are building in India. Account aggregator, I would say many countries have built in different ways, but ONDC, which is the digital commerce being created on an open platform, is a phenomenal concept. If implemented well, it can create a very different framework that no other country has tried. So one is the whole aspect of digital infrastructure, and with our internet connectivity increasing after Jio came in, and other competitors also pulled up their socks. So I think we are in a good place. That's point number one in my view. Point number two is the avenues of how we are changing our behavior as a nation on how we used to save, put money under the mattress, or put it into fixed deposit, and how much of it is now started flowing into the equity markets. It's phenomenal. You got to look at the numbers. I think Lakshmi talked about a bit, but go check some numbers. It's amazing, and what that does, so we are moving. We are still bigger in gold. We're of course largest in real estate. This country loves real estate, but many countries love real estate. So 50% is still in real estate, but we are still moved a bit away, from real estate and gold into and fixed deposits into equity. And that's a trend that's growing phenomenally. And what that does is you are putting into money into investments that actually are productive. Look, you buying plot and selling it at a higher rate after few months doesn't add any productive element to that plot. So really, so you got to think of it that way. You got to think of you buying gold and putting in the bank and its rate increasing is not creating any productive element. But you buying a share and putting money into a company that is actually doing something productive, it makes a huge difference. So I'm just trying to explain in a slightly layman language, but it's very, very clear that what that trend can do, because imagine if your equity volumes double, that means that much more investment is going into productive, and that matters at a macro level. So I think that's another big aspect. I think one area we can probably since I'm talking of positive stuff, one area we can do a lot better is skilling our people. And honestly, we really need to do a lot better. If you get a plumber in your home, the plumber doesn't know which way to turn which way to turn the screw. They are like looking at it for 5 times, because we don't have vocational training. You look at a country like US. After high school, you have a huge number of dropouts who end up going to vocational colleges, and they learn actual skills. Not everybody goes and does an MA or MSc that is honestly quite useless. There are so many master's degrees in this country and so many PhD degrees that are absolutely, are not worth the paper they are written on. So that is one area I think we probably need a lot of work, right from basic skills to very, very, we don't teach basic stuff to people. We don't train plumbers before they go into plumbing, electricians before they go into, it's amazing, they are struggling on the job. I've seen, AC technicians struggling to open an AC, you don't see that. By the way, I've lived in US. You don't see that in US. It's a guy comes, he knows his stuff, he knows which way he has to move and how it's going to open and what's going to happen. And he can literally so that process training, skilling of people, making use of the demography. Look, demography is great only if you use it, So I think that's one area, and I think there's a lot of work happening around it. I'm not saying but we need to go a long way, I think, So those are three things I can talk about. And look, we have a great service industry, but look, who are the people who go into services? People who are highly educated. So where do you get people, large bunch of unemployed people from the villages? How do you get them employed? And that's why, manufacturing comes in. That's how China, put a people, a huge number of rural population into manufacturing jobs. And manufacturing also needs training, by the way. We're like something like semiconductor, it needs huge amount of training to put people onto a semiconductor, manufacturing, chain. So those are some of the thoughts that, at least the things that I have observed that I can share. But happy to hear from my colleagues in the panel. All right, I think we are over time. We'll close the panel here.